Did you anticipate this level of progress?
Yes.
So I am supposed to be in 16s, but this year I made the decision to play 18s and then also play up in Prems to, challenge myself.
It's much the same. Tigers are very much a developmental club. We get nothing but pleasure out of seeing our players come through.
What kind of a message you could send to the rest of the comp?
Look, I think this year we've already sent a message to the comps.
I mean, losing Marco as well at the front, he was always good for us. It's not working too well in defence, but I can put it, even to myself, made heaps of mistakes. Just simple mistakes that they can capitalise on and score pretty much straight off the back of.
When they get that early goal, our heads drop a bit and we think, oh, here we go again. We don't want to go in for the hard challenges as much as we did last year, and I'm not sure what to put that down to.
Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome back to the Blacktown Premier League podcast. Would you believe that I just recorded this entire thing and then realised that I forgot to press record, so here we are doing it again. My name is Mark DePoli. I can't remember if I've already said that. This is a podcast about progression and about learning and about believing in the system. It has one of the best interviews I think I've done all year, and I'd really appreciate if you preemptively press the like button. We're getting to the pointy end of the season. Let's do it. Cue the intro music.
Here come Workers on!
But it's falling here towards Icon!
Oh my word.
To find her teammate in Izzy Grant! And now played and struck! And in! People, Ryan Dominici! Further forward now, Tagura!
We're all ready to play and we'll go out and smoke it this time.
Before I hit record, I obviously got the news of the Diogo Jota news, Liverpool footballer forward who unfortunately passed away, him and his brother, in a car accident in Spain. And it's incredibly sad. He was just married 10 days ago. And I just wanted to use it as an opportunity to remind myself and remind all of our listeners that it's incredibly important to be grateful and to be thankful for the people and the good things in our lives that are around us and surround us and make every day a blessing. And I just want to say from me to you, I'm grateful for you being here. I'm grateful to be able to see you guys on the weekends. This podcast is a reminder how lucky we are, and the fact that we're able to play soccer, physically able to play soccer, is a great thing. So let's turn the tone back up to the jovial classic football chat, but a reminder always to be thankful, and let's get into the crux of this podcast. Today's podcast is a great example of the importance of believing in the system, hence why I've titled this podcast around Quakers Hill Tigers Women's Premier League team. But firstly, let's go through some results. Blacktown Premier Spurs went down 4-1 to Minchinbury Jets, and give me 1 second before I go through these tables, by the way. Blacktown St Pats went down 2-0 themselves to Prospect, big win for them. Newbury beat Glenwood 3-0, Park Lee had the bye, but on Friday night, as the highlights of which you're watching right now, 7-0 for Town Rangers over Oakville with Mwene John Malenga starring. It means that first place Town Rangers are ahead of Newbury simply by a goal difference of 3. Minchinbury Jets are behind those two teams on 23 points each, on 22 themselves. Prospect and Parkley are all within a shout as well. Let's go to PL1 now because it gets even juicier there. An important win for Marion at a ground where they have lost 1-0 for 2 years in a row, Morrow Reserve Eastern Creek. They themselves won 1-0. It was Shia Chakal, yes, the co-coach, the former NPL Golden Boot striker, has decided to register and scored, Kelvin Ofori providing the assist. Now, why is that important? Well, it's because Doonside won 3-0 over Polonia. Now, hold that thought, right? Rivo, 2-1 over Quakers Hill Juniors, Quakers Tigers with the bye, Pons for the second time this season putting 7 past Workers 7-2. What it means for the table is Marion, 9 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, GD 18 points, 28. Doonside, games played 11 as well, wins 9 as well, 1 draw as well, 1 loss as well, goal difference 18 as well, and of course points 28 as well. This is, as we cut back to me for a second, this is about to be the greatest title race run-in we will ever have until we get to Women's Premier League. Women's Premier League results were over the weekend. On Tuesday night, Parkley went down 3-0 to Kellyville Colts. Ropes Crossing on Sunday lost 3-0 to Quakers Hill Juniors. There's one win for a top 4 team. Quakers Hill Tigers then went and beat Parkley 4-0 as well. What a result that is. We're about to dissect that more in this match of the round interview. Marion, another top 4 team, beating Ponds 4-0. Holroyd, another top 4 team, beating Castle Hill United 3-0. Kellyville United beating Norwest 4-2 and Kellyville Colts 6-0 over Rouse Hill Rams. That means all 4 top 4 teams won this weekend. And why is that important? Because the top 4 reads this: Holroyd 41, Quakers Juniors 39, Kellyville Colts 38, Marion 38. 4 teams can win the title. What on earth is going on? The race for second place will be just as important to see who plays who in the first week and the second week of the finals. This is the craziest year ever. We have goal difference splitting PL2. We have nothing splitting PL1. And we have 4 teams. Look! I mean, man, 4 teams that could realistically win the Women's Premier League this year. This is the craziest season from all of our live stream comps I think we've ever come across. We should be so grateful for what we have in front of us. Do not take your eyes off this league campaign, PL2, PL1, Women's Premier League, for a millisecond, because you'll miss the action. It is too good to miss. Please, I urge you, you want some entertainment in the footballing off-season in Europe and the A-League? Tune in here. Right, leave a like if you enjoy, because now we're going to transition into the match of the round interviews. So, Quakers Hill Tigers, this is an opportunity for club members to watch this and go, and even players who are aspiring to be something more than what they are now, to go, this is what a project looks like. I want you to be able to watch this and go, yes, they're not quite, they're not a table topper, but there's a reason for that, as they'll unpack themselves. But the progression is clear. And what you could learn from this could be not humbling, but grounding, I think, and reassuring that if you have a project that you believe in, back yourself and back it. Let's go into this match of the round interview now. Quakers Hill Tigers haven't been shy from a match of the round or a podcast this year, and they haven't been shy from getting a couple of points next to their name as well. Got a couple of new faces to join us for their 5th instalment in 2025. Shanna, after all these years, welcome to the podcast finally. You oversee a lot of this women's program and the WPL team specifically, so you're a good person to talk to when it comes to all things WPL. With 2 points last year, the amount of steps that have been taken in the right direction, or were taken in the right direction last year, that's turned into leaps and bounds this year. And you must be proud. More points achieved than last year by far. More wins than points last year, which is amazing. When you started this year, as someone who oversees the program, did you anticipate this level of progress?
Yes. So last year was very much about getting our foot in the door. Last year, 80% of our players played 2 games a week. So we had the girls in the 21s that were winning lots of games and doing really well in that competition, and then they were backing up every week to go into the Women's Premier League games. So we weren't expecting the world from Women's Premier League. But coming into this year with those players like the Bianca and Hayley and Erica becoming permanent fixtures within WPL, of course we expected more than what we bought out of last season.
Let's speak about Bianca now. Welcome to the podcast as well. You're someone who has exploded into really consistent good form throughout the year, all-star appearances, goals in big games as well. What's been the key that's turned you into a superstar?
Just teamwork, really. I think a good team makes a good player. Yeah.
Perfectly well said, and straight to the point. Miranda, one of the younger youngsters, to put it bluntly. Every time we get Tigers on the podcast, they seem to give us an even younger Tigers representative. Walk me through your journey as a Tigers player to get to this up to this point now.
I guess just like I've always played at Tigers, and then I guess I've always just moved through, 12s to then 14s, 16s, 18s. And then so I obviously still play 18s. I am supposed to be in 16s. But this year I made the decision to play 18s and then also play up in Prems to, challenge myself. And yeah, I guess.
Bianca, it was only 12 months ago, you might remember, where there was a Parkley match of the round. I watched this one, and you guys were beaten 6-1 on the day. Taran jumped on the pitch, got the only assist of the match. It was a showing of where they were and where you were at the time. You're just coming off the back of a 4-0 win over Parkley. That is a huge result. Where does that suggest you guys are now?
That's a great question. Look, I think it's both between Parkley and ourselves. again, as you said, it's been 12 months, so a lot has happened in that time. Quakers Hill Tigers have developed, our Premier League have developed as a team, and we've just been growing this whole season, and we've been doing really well, and we've had each other's backs, and yeah, I guess that shows where we are now. Excellent to hear.
Kem Deeney, welcome back to the podcast, my friend. That was followed up after that Parkley result with a 1-1 draw to fellow Blacktown rivals Ropes. Ropes a new team this year, but they've got a lot of quality in as I'm about to unpack in a question coming up. But for you, they've just drawn with Holroyd, the league leaders, in the match of the round. You go and draw with them. When you guys are on, and you can match it with really good teams. That's quite obvious. If this team got the chance to start on 0 points, everybody got the chance to start on 0 points as of right now, what do you reckon you guys could achieve? Where do you reckon you guys could finish?
That's a pretty good question, and pretty damning statement, to be honest, because we've been really good lately, and we challenged the girls a few weeks ago that when we play teams around us, we need to step up, because we've done well against the top teams sort of this year and held our own and kept it pretty respectable in comparison to some of the other score lines that they've had. So yeah, I think if we started from fresh, I think we'd be well up in the mid-table somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Shannon, you've watched Taran, the coach, in action across both men's and women's program now for a couple of years. Just straight off the bat, how much credit does she deserve for where both of those programs are at the moment?
I think between Taran and the players, they're both on 100%. Taran took on the Women's Premier League as a love job, so she was kind of coerced into it by Maddie, by Bianca, by people that really valued her, had watched her coach Premier League, begged her to come and take it on a Sunday. Now I see the love that Taran has for football come out in her on a Sunday. 100% credit also goes to the players. We can't take it away from the players, but it's the combination of both for us has been, well, where the results are now.
For Tigers, there's always a plan in place, whether it's at the youngest age groups or right here at the highest level. What's the plan, not for this year, but for the end of next year, and maybe even 5 years beyond that, if you could reveal what those conversations have been like?
It's much the same. Tigers are very much a developmental club. We get nothing but pleasure out of seeing our players come through, Miranda, Bianca, come through these teams and develop into these Women's Premier League. So I guess the plan is exactly to do what we're doing, keep doing what we're doing, keep retaining those players. Last year we did see some players leave us to go into representative football, which is amazing. We love seeing those, and we encourage the girls to do that. And the beauty in that is the home that they have here, that we've built for them here, they come back, and we've seen that in the men's, and we're hoping to see that in the female program as well.
You touched on Miranda just then. Miranda, I'll get you to grab that microphone. You arguably have the most important goal in this journey so far as WPL. The second goal on the day against Kellyville United was the winning goal in what was a 3-1 win over that Hills-based club. To do it as a mid-teen, essentially, is incredible. We've spoken about what that moment was like for the girls that were there that day, but for you to have the goal to your name, it must be extra special. Talk me through that goal.
I think it wasn't about just the scoring. It was just it was the whole moment altogether. It was the, being on, tying with the other team, and then, having that opportunity was, absolutely awesome. And if it was anyone, they would, it was the same. It was so great being able to do that for my team, and, being new in the team, and then finally being able to present myself and say I'm here and I want to do something for this team, and yeah, it was just such a good moment.
Off the back of that, and off the back of what Shannon just said in her answer just then, is your plan as a 16-year-old now to stick around for a long time and use the ethos of this club, the very fibre of this club to continue developing, knowing it's a safe space for it?
100%. I want to, follow my whole soccer journey here, and even if that takes me literally NPL, whatever, I would love to do that with Quakers.
Excellent to hear. Brendan, speaking of Taran, you're the assistant coach. What are you learning from her week in, week out on the training ground, and then come game day as well?
Oh, so much. I couldn't speak highly enough of Taran. Obviously this year I'd like to be playing, but I've stepped in and started helping out the girls and even the boys when I can try and lend a hand. But I guess this season, as being with her, she's taught me to look at the game a bit differently and see it from a different point of view. And even not even more tactically, but just managing your players, managing your whole squad is a difficult task. And I think the way that we do things here is really good. And without Taran, I think we'd be finding things a bit difficult.
Bianca, Castle Hill this weekend is a huge game. I think, from my perspective, looking at the table, if you win that one, you put yourself into a mid-table conversation, which is pulling yourselves away from those guys that are towards the bottom and separating yourselves from them. But Castle Hill's no easy task. So, if you put yourself mid-table, I just want to round off some of the players that these clubs have. I'll start with the highest. So Rouse Hill Rams are majorly NPL youth kids that have all come over from one or two clubs to build a team. Ropes have a former Spartans player. They have NPL experience throughout their team, and plenty of sort of all-age women who are more experienced at this level of football. If I go to Castle Hill University, they have an internationally capped player as their striker, who I believe scored last time against you from the spot, and everyone knows about Parkley. So you're coming up against teams, forgive me for talking so much, but you're coming up against teams that have serious pedigree, which on paper, with all due respect, maybe you shouldn't be competing with, but you are. And that's really impressive. So how important do you see this match of the round in terms of what kind of a message you could send to the rest of the comp?
Look, I think this year we've already sent a message to the comp saying that we're better than last year and that we're still getting better. And that I believe that, on paper, yes, they could be a great team, but it all comes down to the day. They could be having the worst day and we could be having the best day. And, who knows? Anything can happen on the day and we might come out on top. That's the goal, I guess.
Brandon, little prediction heading into the match of the round. Castle Hill, good team, probably outside of finals contention now, but still plenty to play for. Do you have a guess at this one?
You always give me these tough ones. Yeah, look, from what I remember last time, it was a pretty close game. I think they got up by 1 or 2 goals, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't really remember
2-1
specifically. But look, I think the way it formed that we're in, and I think we're going to be hard to stop. So I'm going to say maybe 2-1.
Shanna, the reason why I've framed this podcast, why the thumbnail will be dedicated towards Tigers, is because I see it as like a conveyor belt almost. And I want to know, from your perspective as someone who oversees the project, for clubs who might be wanting to start this, clubs in Blacktown, clubs elsewhere, that want to start a project like this and implement it from younger ages and let it see through. What's the, if you're happy to give away some secrets, what's the advice from committee perspective as someone who's been doing it for a long time to start this project and how to make sure that people keep believing in it throughout the process?
I honestly think clubs already have that within them. I guess the only advice that I would give is to, first of all, make sure you're prepared. Possibly last year we weren't as prepared as we thought. It was a foot in the door moment. Probably wasn't the best on the players, that we were expecting them to turn up and train and turn up to 2 games every week. But to me, you just need to get your foot in the door. But prior to that, you need to have a program in place, have a plan in place, and always consult your players. Prior to the season last year, when we had the 21s and we had the WPL, we consulted the players. We held a meeting. We asked them if it was okay if we did this, because it was the burden on them. We always consult our players. We have a strong committee behind them, and I guess believe in the players that you have. Don't necessarily just trust the ones that you're going to bring in. Believe in the ones that have been around and call your club a home.
That's good advice. And I don't want people to watch this and just think that I'm giving you all the plaudits in the world, because at the end of the day, there's still plenty of improvement to go, and that will come in time with this young player base that you have. So I don't want to make it seem like you guys are top of the table right now, but it's a journey, and you can see the progress and you can see the building blocks and the foundation that's being formed. Obviously, you believe that this will end up something like that one day, perhaps?
Well, we hope, and we do believe. We believe in the players. But like you just said, you're not sitting there labelling us as top of the table. There have been moments in this season that we felt like we're top of the table. The first win, even last year, the first goal, I remember, my phone going off like crazy because the first goal was scored of our season last year. So all of these little wins do feel like big wins for us. Look, I think the talent that we have coming through not only in the 18 girls, the girls that have gone off to other clubs to play representative football that will likely come back. I can see us competing with the top 4 in the next 5 years.
Certainly. Is that something to say as well, that with these players that have started last year and have maintained this year, yes, obviously they've developed a year under Taran, 18 months under Taran at this point, but it is still largely the same player base with a bunch of very raw youth kids. So is it possible to say that, you mentioned it felt like a burden on them, you had to communicate with them, they were probably like, they did it, and it's still those same players that are now getting results. So it's not like you had to bring these players in that have turned the tide around. It's players that perhaps didn't believe in it, started to believe in it, and have now got it there. Does that ring true?
Yeah, there are players within our team that can easily walk into a starting 11 in that top 4. Easily walk into a starting 11. Our retention last year, I believe, around 3 players left. One that's now at Holroyd, so that is in the starting 11 of the top of the table. Those players came back. So the Biancas, the Ericas, the players that we had that burden on came back because they believe in the program. We don't really need to ask them anymore. They just keep coming back. So the belief in the program and the home that you build creates the culture, the community that you want these kids to return to.
Excellently said. That is the culture that is waving around Patterson Reserve on both Saturdays and Sundays. It does seem, especially on Sundays, there are plenty of good things happening here at the moment. Castle Hill United will be a great test for these girls and to really put themselves into a different sort of section of the table. It could have great effects on the table going forward as well. Guys, thanks so much for joining me here tonight and embracing the cold. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed that interview. I really think that was one of the most important and insightful ones of the year. I thought Shanna held herself really well. To be able to chat to the assistant coach, 2 star players, one of them an emerging teenage talent, and Shanna, who oversees this Women's Premier League program, has been at the club for 15 plus years now. You're learning about what that kind of experience generates in a change room and around the atmosphere of a club. And the indictment that it is on Taran Rockall's coaching as well is not to be ignored. Leave a like, by the way, because I think it's great that we have clubs that are willing to share some secrets as to what works and provide some insight as to what keeps them ticking, because that was, for me, as someone who's never volunteered at a club and never played at a high level like this, I learned a lot from this interview. So if you did too, a reminder, please do leave a like. From a team and an entity that's showing progression on progression week in, week out, let's talk about someone who regressed wholly this year. PL2's grand final winners of 2024, Glenwood, find themselves last place right now. Last place, 41 goals conceded, averaging about 3 or 4, sort of 3.4, I think the stat is, per game. It's not like them. And we're about to find out why that is. Enjoy. The time is now if Glenwood want to turn their season around. Of course, they were Premiership promotion contenders last year, grand final winners alongside that. And we're here joined by Jake Baptiste and Benny O'Brien for the first time. And of course, Lachlan Innes returns as well. Lockie, I just want to go to you off the start. Allow me to reel off some recent results. Well, results throughout this season, okay? So bear with me. Parkley 4, Glenwood 3. Newbury 4, Glenwood 3. Glenwood 5, Spurs 5. Prospect 1, Glenwood 1, Minchinbury 4, Glenwood 3. Lockie, the way I see that is that if you guys have scored 5 more goals across those 5 games, which you are very capable of, you're a high-scoring team, you'd be 9 points better this season. You'd be sitting up towards the middle of the table, but it hasn't turned out that way for one reason or another. It's an incredible record to be within 1 goal of each of those games of getting some more points, and it's kind of the story of the season in a way. Can I get your reaction to just hearing those results off the bat?
Well, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Our problem isn't scoring goals. Ben and Hosh and even Robbie stepping in with goals this year. But I guess the issue is a lot of individual errors, which, to be honest, last year we didn't really do. So, and then I think the entire midfield 3 is different to last year. So that sort of cover of the back line is completely different. So it's just about working out, again, what formation works. We've tried a couple different setups in the middle, what players work, and trying to find out what works best for, I guess, the offense as well as the defense. Because at the moment, the midfield combinations we're trying are working a lot in possession, but they're not quite working out of it at the moment.
Okay, good call. Jake, I'll get you to grab that mic. Welcome to the podcast. There's about 45 years worth of experience in Glenwood colours here, and you contribute pretty heavily to that as well. You're also an all-star representative last year. You've been recognised for your defensive capabilities, but part of, unfortunately, a 41-goal defence this year. And as we've heard, it might not just be because of the defence. As we know, a lot of the defensive members were part of the grand final promotion push of last year. So off the back of hearing what one of the leadership figures in Lachie Innes has just said about the changing of the midfield, where do you think, blame is the wrong word, but where do you sort of point to in terms of why the defence has done what it's done this year?
I wouldn't necessarily blame the midfield so much. I mean, as Locke said, it's not working too well in defence. But, I can put it, even to myself, made heaps of mistakes. Just simple mistakes that they can capitalise on and score pretty much straight off the back of. So it's a bit frustrating. But, relatively same backline. We've only made a change in the past 2 weeks. It's frustrating, but I wouldn't put it down to just the midfield, just the defence. Kind of just a whole team effort.
There's heaps of energy in the way you guys played last year, a youthful energy about you. I would say the team has gotten younger on average. If not, you'd be the youngest, if not one of the top 3 or bottom 3, if you like, youngest teams, if that's the way you see it. So there's plenty of potential. Are you guys potentially looking at the way you have pressed compared to last year to this year? Has there been a change in that at all? Or is it, sort of those individual areas that you both touched on now?
I think it could be a bit of both. I know Benny up the front, he's always pressing really hard. Sometimes he's back in the back line with us, he gets that far back. Hosh is a good presser as well. So I don't think it's too much a pressing issue, but losing Marco as well at the front, he was always good for us. Again, individual errors at the back. I know I can take the blame for quite a bit, I'd have to say. But so it's just that, I reckon.
Okay, well, very, very honest from you, which I appreciate. Benny, I'll get you to grab that mic now. Again, also to you, welcome to the podcast. I know I reeled off a couple of really close games there where one goal would have made a huge difference to where you guys are on the table, but there's been a couple of times where Glenwood has been sort of figuratively run through in terms of the scoreboard. Has there been, compared to last year, there was a bit of a never give up, never say die kind of thing going on? By comparison, has there been a tendency at times to, when the scoreboard sort of gets a little bit out of reach, that maybe you guys just switch off a tiny bit? Is that a possibility?
I think in a lot of games this year we've had early goals conceded, and I think when that goal goes in, we think, oh, here we go again, sort of thing. We got close the first game against Parklea. We've been close a few other times, but when they get that early goal, our heads drop a bit, and we think, oh, here we go again. But I think we're a bit passive. We don't want to go in for the hard challenges as much as we did last year, and I'm not sure what to put that down to. And I think just the start that we've had has dropped a lot of heads for us.
Lockie, your reserve grade team is very strong this year, sitting in 5th place right now. There's a real chance of making finals. It's a question I tend to ask teams towards the end of the season as we pull up to it. Is there conversations happening in the Inns household perhaps of putting some stronger players down into that reserve grade team?
I mean, they've kind of gotten to where they are without that, so it kind of takes away their achievement almost if we just start throwing in me, Jake, Benny, or any player like that into their setup. What they've done as a team. So it doesn't feel right to then replace 5 players with the first graders just for the sake of getting results.
Well said. Jake, I go back to you. As mentioned, one of 3 people here who have many, many years, more than a decade spent at this club. People have always talked about, and we spoke about in the first podcast of the year, about the projects that Glenwood are trying to instill here. It's a multi-year project. Hosh talked about wanting to build something, him being the oldest of a young batch, despite the fact that I think he's 22 or 23 years old, which is crazy considering your average age of the squad. If you could sort of put into your own words a little bit more to extend on what he spoke about that day, the project, where you guys see yourselves in a couple of years and what you think you could achieve in that time.
Yeah, well, we've got some really good 21s coming up who are still 17, 18, 19. So I think in a few years they'll definitely be pushing for a first grade spot. And it's just about, working with them, coaching them, helping them be better so they can fit into the squad, the first grade squad, and just, hopefully get some more wins under our belt and push for promotion. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll ask the opposite question to you now, Lockie, as well, is instead of dropping down first graders into reserve grade, are you prompted to potentially bring some 21s up, knowing that maybe first grade finals out of the question, but you have the chance to blood these guys in? Is that a possibility?
Well, we definitely have the, I guess, opportunity to experiment a bit more, because I guess finals is quite tough for us at the moment. So looking ahead to next year, we can start to think about what Resi's players could we try in first grade, what 20s players could we maybe give some minutes, see how they go. So we're kind of in this unique opportunity this season where we can promote without too much risk. But again, obviously it's first grade. We're not just going to do it for the sake of doing it. We still want to try and win games. But yeah, that opportunity is definitely there.
Ben, St. Pat's last time, of course, St. Pat's is the match of the round. St. Pat's render the only win for first grade this year. You guys, it was a really weird start to the game. You know, you go down 2-0, you equalise 2-2, you then go on to win 4-2. It's a bonkers game. Kind of typical of the entire season, some of these high-scoring matches, but you guys pulled through in that one. St. Pat's was also a 0-0 draw in trials, so off the back of your form against them last year as well, you played pretty good against them for a long, long time. They're a team you play well against. Could you maybe put your finger on why that is? Maybe let's talk a little bit about that game last time, that 4-2. That was a pretty bonkers game.
Yeah, that was a weird game. We went down 2-0 and I thought, oh, here we go again. But we got 2 goals back, and then I think once we got those 2 goals back, everyone's heads came back up and we thought we can get a win here, we can get our first win. And then we kept going with it and finished off well. I'm not too sure what it is with St. Pat's. I think it's, like I said, just conceding early, like we're down 2-0, but then getting those 2 goals back really upped our mood and wanted us to fight more. Whereas if we went into half-time 2-0 down, I don't think we would have got that same result. So it's more we need to want to fight back once we concede those early goals instead of just dropping our heads and letting it happen.
So we can see what you guys are capable of when you put some goals on the board and you keep the defence tight, and we know what level you guys can play at, obviously going off the back of last year, but with that win, that's probably the best example of maybe your best performance. How can you guys try and ensure that happens more towards the end of the season, like starting from this weekend? How can you try and implement what worked that day into each week?
I think we just need to know that even if we concede early, if we concede in the first 10 minutes, there's still 80 minutes in the game left. Like, we can't drop our heads, because once you drop your heads, then you've defeated yourselves. So we just need to keep the attitude up, and we want to play for each other and go in for all these tackles, all the 50-50s, go full on. Otherwise, we're going to be the ones who get hurt from it.
Mm-hmm. Lockie, I'll go to you against St. Pat's. That 0-0 draw in trials, you've beaten them 4-2. Off the back of recent form and how you've gone against recent form in general and how you've gone against St. Pat's previously, what are you expecting out of this match in terms of you're a coach, how they set up and the way to get around them?
I mean, without revealing too much,
of course,
it's always a good game against Paddies. They have a very, I would say, distinct style that I think if you watch them, you could recognise fairly easily, but it's fairly effective as well, so that's why they do it. So it's just about nullifying that, depending on how we set up. Do we set up a bit more compact in the back? Do we play a higher line? Stuff like that. Again, without revealing too much. But yeah, it's just how we set up in prep for what I guess we know that they're going to bring.
Again, back to Jake, and just in terms of the question I asked you about project and investing into that project, PL2 is a great ground for that because it is Premier League standard with, and it's treated as Premier League, but it is a little bit lower quality, and the chance to bring in younger players who believe in a project and go forward and build something is real. How is the club making sure that happens and that people believe, and yes, even though it's tough right now, in a couple of years, we want to be here and you guys can help us get there? How is the club managing that mentality?
Well, I mean, the past few years before we won last year, obviously, it was a tough few years, finishing near the bottom of the table. So I think it's just a belief that what we've done previously, we can do again. Again, making sure the younger guys, even the ones that aren't in Premier League yet, there's some strong players down there. So just helping them, give them the confidence to actually step up and trial, get them in the squad, and just belief that we can do what we've done already.
Benny, there's been a lot of chat around the comp, and I've heard from multiple people now, from coaches to players, that playing against Glenwood is a difficult task. But again, it's sort of like once you get the first goal, things become a bit easier because maybe heads are dropping, which is what we sort of discovered tonight. Does it give you any kind of confidence knowing that teams find it difficult to play against you? You know, through the grapevine, people are saying that. But what kind of message is that to you?
Yeah, well, it gives us confidence seeming as we're bottom of the ladder and people are saying that stuff about us. But I think we just need to turn those performances that other people can see into results and just,
turning into results perfectly. Lockie, finish us off. I just want to talk about the Spurs game, arguably the most crazy game of the entire year. The lead changes hands a million times. There are multiple goals scored after the final whistle. There's a red card thrown in there. Just confirming you're at that game. Is that the most enjoyable, frustrating, least predictable football match you've ever played in?
I would say frustrating, because if you look at the first couple stages of that game, we were very comfortable. And then they grab one and then we're still comfortable. And then when they grab the second, it's all of a sudden, oh, what's happened here? And then they just, again, it's kind of like the flip side to us, right? If you grab that second goal, all of a sudden you think you're back in it. And then the momentum of the game kind of shifted, and then it just kept shifting back and forth, back and forth. So for the neutral, I imagine very entertaining. For us, a bit frustrating.
Prediction for this match of the round and for the rest of the season, where you could potentially finish if you get some points on the board?
I definitely think we can be higher than we are. I think, again, as you've heard from the grapevine, right, teams find us difficult to play. And like Benny said, once we can turn that into results, I think we can start to see a bit of the form that we had last year as well. So my prediction for the season is, hopefully, we end a bit better than we have been at the moment. And I guess for the match, I think another entertaining one, but I think we'll edge it.
They certainly have a good record against St. Pat's, not just this year, but in years gone by. It's also one of the first match of the round games that I remember commentating back in my day, which is a crazy thing. So it's got a bit of history, this one. There were late goals scored in that one. St. Pat's and Glenwood always provide action at Blacktown Football Park in match of the rounds. Make sure you are there at 7 p.m. on Saturday nights. Boys, thanks very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. This is hard to say because I feel like, first of all, it would be great to have Harry on to chat about this later, but we haven't had the chance to have Harry Inns, the coach, and also higher up club figure on just yet this season. But when you lose 16 winning goals and 32 league goals in Ash and Marco Bravo Ortiz, you know, those weren't guys who came through the system, so they're not players that were brought in and developed under your ethos, for example. They're not your entrenched club players. So it wouldn't have been against your philosophy, for example, to go and replace them with some trialists elsewhere. And what it means is I think you've resigned yourself to the fact that you believe in the project, which is great, but I think you've almost conceded that this season might be a write-off. And that's okay. It happens. You're humans. It's natural. But it is a shame. And I think what it does is it forces you now to learn lessons ahead of next year. It means that when you get into pre-season and when the season finishes, it means that the second that the last round of the season goes, you're already thinking about, if not already, you're already thinking about next year and making sure that these mistakes that have happened this year don't happen again. So, could this actually be a blessing in disguise? Maybe, because you obviously weren't ready to go up this year. Will it actually light a fire under your backsides and make you collectively go, hey, this is what we need to do to be better? I think so, and that's what's really exciting about the whole PL2 competition, because you get the chance to make that mistake. And you've had the chance. Now let's see how you learn from it. Enjoy. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Wow. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Blacktown Premier League podcast. It's getting late here at Patterson and I'd like to go home. But again, I think two really good interviews. The first one with Quakers Tigers in particular, I think is so important to remember that to be a little bit less hasty. Like if you're a parent or you're a young player making their decisions in the football world, if you believe in your club, then don't be in a rush to do things, for example, especially if you're a young player. I mean, I'm 24, I still consider myself a young player. But genuinely, if you can see the vision, invest in it and put your full faith in it, I think is the message. Now, obviously, they haven't won trophies yet, Quakers or Tigers, but what could they do? I think the potential is, the ceiling is very high, pretty limitless, if I do say so myself. So, they've proved me wrong. I've got a great end-of-season review podcast to do, that's for sure. and have to eat my own dust, eat my own words, for example. I think that's going to be great. And best of luck to them too. I think it's a great project to be invested in as a BDSFA representative. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Blacktown Premier League podcast. Thank you very much for being here, and a reminder to leave a like if you did enjoy any snippet at any point of this podcast. We really appreciate the likes because it shows that you appreciate the effort that we put into making these podcasts happen, including the players as well who come here on a non-training night to give you this content when it's cold and your bones are chilling. A reminder as well, of course, to always be grateful and thankful for the good things that are happening around you. It's important to do it and to be self-reflective. Much love to you all. See you on the weekend or next week. Leave a like. Ciao. Cue the outro music. And it's fallen here towards Icon!
Oh my word.
And now played and struck and in! Further forward now to Nura! Ryan Dominici! Wants a second goal. Isabel Brett should have a second goal! And finishes with ease!